for a job with a felony. All right, so let's dive into that because there's not a lot of topics on that. So before I do, hit that subscribe button so you can subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you get notified when I can upload a video, and smash that like button. All right. So before you apply for a job and you know that you have a felony, you have to look at your local laws, your state law, and not federal law. And you have to also look how far back companies go on your criminal record. So if, for example, if you have a job if you apply for a bank teller and you have a robbery conviction, even if it was 20 years ago, they're not going to hire you. So that's out of the question. So you have to look at the company's policy on hiring felons. There is a lot of companies out there that do hire convicted felons. So you don't have to worry about that. You just gotta Google it and find out if they hire. I know a lot of airlines hire convicted felons. There are even government jobs. Even the United States Postal Service hire you with a conviction. It all depends how long ago it was. It depends what type of crime it was. So all that plays into effect. If you had a crime that was 10 years ago and you haven't gotten involved in any criminal activity at all, and then they say, okay, fine, we can hire this person. But for the most part, if your conviction is, let's say, job related to, like I said, a bank teller, robbery, theft, anything that has to do with theft or anything like that, that has to be, you have to work with money, they won't take you. That's just their policy. So you have to be worried about that. So you go into you Google it, and you find out, does this company hire FedEx, or they hire convicted felons? Yes, they do hire convicted felons, depending on what how you did or what happened to you before, blah blah. So don't let that conviction deter you from applying for a job. You know that you're a convicted felon. You cannot possess a firearm at all. Don't even take a picture with a firearm, because that right there, if someone wants to be shiesty enough and they don't like you, whatever the case may be, they want to be vindictive, your ex-girl, whatever the case may be, they can show that to the cops and you can go to jail. So be very aware about that. So like I said, so there are jobs out there that do take you if you have a conviction, a felony. There's also when you apply for it and they ask you, have you been convicted of a felony? And then in the bottom it's in parentheses or something like that, it says a conviction doesn't necessarily bar you from this job. You could put no, or you could just leave it blank. And if they ask you, listen, you never mark down whether you were convicted of a felony or not, you can always say, oh yes, I was convicted of a felony 10 years ago, but I prefer, if I go for an interview, I prefer telling you right there and then, because you're better off telling them right then and then. A lot of people say put yes, because that's the best policy, but we all know in the real world that is not the best policy, because sometimes they see a conviction, no matter how long ago it was, it could be 20 years ago, no matter how long ago it was, and they're going to judge you because of that. So, so you could just leave it blank. Just leave it blank. You can always put furnished upon request, but that's also divulging that you were convicted, but you're not necessarily saying that you were. So you just my advice, just leave it blank. You're not lying. You can put no and they find out that you were. You're not lying. You're just not divulging it at that particular moment. And you just leave it blank, because if they do a background check, the background check will ask you on the email, what the case may be, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And if you were, blah 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 blah, then they look into that. They look into your record, and being that it's public record, so you can also put no if you want to. And then just, you just furnish it upon request. They say honesty is the best policy. It may be true, but in certain circumstances, we all know that doesn't work out in the real world. As much as we want to be honest aid, they won't. Some people just won't hire you. Just plain and simple, they won't hire you because of that record, no matter how much far back it goes. So that's why it's always best to put no, or leave it, not put no, just leave it blank, and then just on the application, on the background check, something different. So you leave it blank, and you just, if they don't do a background check, you just, if they was to ask you, have you been convicted of felony, you're like, well, yeah, 20 years ago I was a kid, and blah blah blah, and this happened, and blah blah blah. Well, that was 20 years ago. I'm a changed man, or a woman. So you could do that. It's better to explain it to face to face. That's my policy. Like I said, you got airport jobs to hire you. You have FedEx, UPS, Walmart, Lowe's. There are an exorbitant amount of jobs that hire you with a conviction. So, like I said before, don't let that deter you. Also, what you can do too, you can have your record expunged or sealed, depending on your state. You don't need a lawyer for that. You can go to the website, to your local state, to your state website for the courts. Print out a page. At least in New York, you can do that. You print out a page, and you just fill it out and mail it in, or you can go to the courthouse and pay a fee, and just apply for a certificate of relief or a certificate of good conduct. And depending on the state, you're gonna get expunged or sealed. The only difference between sealed and expunged is that expunged means that that only certain entities, certain agencies can look at your record, not all. So and then sealed is just a sealed record. They can't look into it unless a government, government officials can. But so you can have that. So you don't have to get a lawyer. You can do it yourself, as long as there are certain criteria you have to meet. In certain state is different. Like I said, like New York, you have to not have been in trouble like for 7 years or 8 years, something like that. So that all plays a role. So you can get that expunged or sealed, depending. Like I said, it all depends on the state that you're in. So look into your state, your state and local laws. Find that out, and once you do, you just apply. You know that you cannot work with children if you have a child abuse case, or you had a child abuse case, or anything like that. Those jobs for school, they're very strict. They do fingerprinting, and with the airport jobs, if you get an airport job, you have to say that you were convicted. You could put down no, you could just leave it blank, and then when it comes down to the TSA, when the Port Authority goes fingerprinting you, you have to do another application. You put yes that you were convicted, and what they'll do is that they'll ask you to submit an adjudicated form, meaning that they want to make sure that your case is closed, what you were convicted of, and that's it. And you be honest with them, and if they like you, they will hire you, because they don't discriminate like that. So don't worry about it. If you have a conviction, just apply for the job that you want, and if you need any help, just hit me up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know.